Meal prep. That one habit that if we just had it down, eating well would be so much easier. And yet, every time that we go to meal prep, it ends up being overly tedious, taking all day. And then we get to the end of the week and we don't even eat half the food that we prepared. If this has been your experience of, quote, meal prep, unquote, then this is going to be a very refreshing and hopefully empowering take on how to prepare your food in a way that lets you eat well consistently so that you can get the results you want with your fitness and health. My name is Lindsay Pickowitz.
And I'm Brian Pickowitz. We are the head coaches and co-founders of the Fitness Project, where we focus on building fit and healthy leaders. Now, to start this conversation around meal prep off, there's two key takeaways and reminders that we want to give you. Meal prep is essentially priming your environment for success. In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about hacking your environment so it works to your advantage. And so part of being healthy is making sure that there's healthy food on hand, that it's easier for you to fall into positive habits versus falling into negative habits. And how do you know when negative habits are going to show up? Well, there's usually a cue, right? And those cues can be the food, right? I see Doritos and all of a sudden I crave them. It could be time of day. Maybe I have this belief that, hey, it's 8 p.m. sitting on the sitting there watching television. It's time to eat some ice cream. Right? So there's always these cues that kind of prime us to go and execute. And if we can start putting new foods in our environment, then that's going to prime us for improving as well. The second part is understanding that habits aren't just what we do, it's often how we think. So when it comes to improving your nutrition, we want to challenge some of our latent beliefs around what healthy eating has to look like, what meal prep has to look like, or even maybe the unconscious negative connotations that come with being a healthy person. For a lot of us, we grow up with this idea of a healthy person being the person who eats granola and quinoa all the time. They're kind of boring. We feel like getting healthy is restrictive or something that makes it so we can't have fun. And that's not the case at all. If we find a way to make it fun, or we find a way to make it enjoyable for ourselves, if we make it more rewarding to live a healthy life versus feel like we have to lose weight, then this whole conversation is going to be easier. Yep. So we want to start by understanding, yes, meal prep is going to be the tactics of how do I prepare my protein, what foods are best for me. But if we think, how can I prime my environment by putting healthier food in the kitchen or in the fridge or at work, that's one area that will improve our ability to be consistent. And if we can challenge some of our beliefs around health or certain foods and what it means to live a healthy life, this whole conversation becomes a lot easier to have.
What's so funny is I remember being a kid and thinking that the healthy options were the boring ones. And now, especially granola, oatmeal, rice, things like that were boring. And now I'm like, I love those things. Those things are so good. I love granola.
I remember before we started dating, I was in a relationship, and I was. And the girl I was dating had this uncle, and this uncle was the healthiest person I've ever met. Like up to that point in my life, they were so healthy that they didn't let their kid have Reese's peanut butter cups because that caused their kid to, have these massive energy spikes. And they're like, no, I don't want them to eat all that processed junk. So they're really healthy. And at first I was like, this guy's strange. And now I'm 30.
You're that guy.
Well, I'm pretty darn close, right?
Candy.
I still eat candy and stuff like that, but I see the baseline habits that he had, and I've seen that, he was just someone who was very conscious about his health. So it's okay to be conscious about your health, especially if you do it in a way that makes you feel successful in something else, right? If you associate that being healthy is going to improve your relationships or make you a better father or mother, or it's going to give you the energy you need to grow your business, hey, you're going to be able to attack this much easier than, oh my God, I got to do the thing. If it feels like a chore, you're not going to do it because no one likes chores, not even me, right? So just reminding just kind of looking back into your own history around, did I think this was boring? Do I still think it's boring? Do I cringe at the idea of eating healthy versus eating ice cream late at night? Just important things to understand to see your baseline.
Yes. And when we're talking about meal prep, the reason that meal prep is even something that we're addressing is it's really helpful. It's really helpful. Even if you work at home and you have the technical ability to cook all of your meals, why add another responsibility to your plate when you're already a professional or a business owner, an executive who has a ton of meetings all day long? You have a family that comes home in the afternoon. You have a spouse who's asking you what's for dinner. Why would you put yourself through the struggle of having to make more decisions and cook more food throughout the day when you could easily have one weekly behavior that sets you up for success? Now, I know the answer to that question because we already talked about it. Why wouldn't you? Because it's tedious, because it's overwhelming, because you don't eat half the food you cook, it's boring, etc., right? But if you really zoom out and you think, okay, I'm going to learn a whole new way to do this, the reason that you would want to learn it is because it makes eating well consistently so much easier. Otherwise, we would not suggest that you do that for yourself, especially knowing how busy you are, how busy some of our clients are, and what we would be willing to do. We're not going to tell you to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves. So we're going to give you some examples of what that might look like. But starting off, most important thing to know, or things to know if you're going to be meal prepping, are really what a healthy meal entails. I was telling Brian about this before we started recording. For a lot of women that I know, when they think meal prep, their mind defaults to something they saw on Pinterest many moons ago. Maybe it's like meal prepped chia seed pudding, or make a big batch of soup. If you go in with the traditional ideas or maybe Pinterest boards of what healthy meal prep looks like, you might set yourself up for failure because the meals you make actually aren't very satisfying. They're not very filling, and they don't really have any goals around them or purpose to them other than they're what you saw on Pinterest and they're attractive.
Or they
meals.
feel it's too big of an ideal as well, right? It's like, if my meal has to look this way in order to do it, it's this high standard of like the prettiness of the meal or different colors or what it has to taste like. It's this really high standard that, hey, if we're busy, we probably don't have time to even get close to meeting.
So what do we actually have to know about meals? Like, what is a healthy meal? Just set up the frame there.
The average person needs to eat roughly 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal. They'd have roughly 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates and anywhere between 10 to 15 or 20 grams of fat per meal. That is a healthy meal that's going to be about 300 to 400 calories, give or take. Now, the goal is that those sources come from healthy, whole food, or non-processed or minimally processed options. When we talk about meal prepping, though, or improving your nutrition around what you keep in your house or what you keep at your office, what you keep at your desk, the key is understanding that healthy is also a spectrum, right? If we think of cotton candy as like this wild extreme of what is unhealthy, right? If you were eating only cotton candy, that would be a very, well, it's all sugar. There's nothing that's healthy about it. You're not getting any vitamins. Unless you're a marathon athlete, you don't need that in your body to be fueling yourself. The only reason why you need that as a marathon athlete is because you need instant carbohydrates, and so the sugar is going to get processed, boom. Right? It doesn't mean you can't eat it, but if that's your one extreme, then the other extreme is like grass-fed venison or bison. Like that's like the healthiest extreme of something you could eat in nature. Maybe you put beans that are organic or whatever your extreme of health is on the other side, which is probably really hard to get natural wild-caught salmon from a stream. Like that is like wicked healthy, right? Well, our goal is to move from the unhealthy side to the healthier side. So each meal doesn't have to be perfect. It's really, what do you have right now? What does normal look like for you, right? If you're someone who usually eats M&Ms at your desk, hey, maybe switching to rice cakes is not a bad move. Or maybe even switching to some healthier chips is not a bad move, right? You don't have to go from, oh, I eat M&Ms at my desk, now I have carrot sticks, and you hate it. Working up that spectrum, what's great is the more you move towards healthy, and the more you think about meals as a healthy manner to get your fuel, you kind of reset that standard, and then you can continue to move up as well.
Well said. So if we want to take that to the next level, now we need to think about preparing carbohydrates. Fat sources are things that tend not to need cooking. They're usually toppings, if I'm really thinking about the fat sources we'd add, or they're within the meat that we cook if you do eat meat. But fat sources aren't necessarily things that we would put on this list of 4 Ps.
Because fats can be Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts, almonds,
cheese,
olive oil.
Olive oil you
avocado.
drizzle over other things.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. Hummus, stuff like that will be fat sources that are healthy. But carbohydrates, on the other hand, although there's plenty of ones that you could put in your house that don't require cooking, it's very helpful to have healthy carbohydrates on hand that you can add with your protein if you want to have a quick meal. Healthy carbohydrates that you could cook would be rice, sweet potato, potato. You could even think about this as vegetables that you enjoy and want to have that are technically carbohydrates, even if they're not calorically dense or they're mostly fibrous, like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, whatever it is that you want to have. Again, you want to have in your week, you want to have prepared, easy on hand. I know sometimes we'll cook up peas or Brussels sprouts or carrots or whatever, but carbohydrates we tend to think of as like rice in the rice cooker or sweet potatoes that are air fried, things like that.
Or in the oven. And the goal is that you're preparing these foods so you can conveniently make meals, right? We've prepared protein
Mix and
that's
match.
easy to put into a bowl or Tupperware. We've prepared some rice that we can, hey, here's a cup or a half cup. Here's some vegetables that I can easily make a meal out of. This took me, if we're tracking with the amount of time that's taken me to cook this right now, it's taken an hour that I was doing something else, because it's usually how long it takes for the chicken to bake or whatever. It's taken the same amount of time for the food to be in the rice cooker or the broccoli to be in the oven baking. You're not doing this actively. It's a passive investment, right? You're passively investing your time in this because you put the food in the oven, you put it in the crock pot, you put the seasoning on it that you enjoyed. Hey, the rice is in the rice cooker, the potatoes have been cut up, and that takes a little more time, but it's not that big of an investment. I took some frozen broccoli and I put it on a tray and I put it in the oven. Very, very simple and easy, and it didn't take me any extra time.
Yes.
Now, the last thing, though, when it comes to meal prep, again, we are priming our environment for success. We want to purchase foods that are prepared, that make it easy for us to fall into healthy habits when we need convenience. This is fruit. You'll never go wrong eating an apple, right? We have a bunch of apples in our house because we love eating apples. Clementines, very easy and convenient. You can also think Greek yogurt, very easy and convenient to eat healthy. Rice cakes, whatever flavor you want. The chocolate ones are fine. The white cheddar ones are fine. Very easy and convenient.
Think deli meat.
Yep, deli meat.
Tuna packets. You can think protein powder. Is already prepared protein source.
Yep. If you're weird like me, you could get a can of organic black beans, a can of tomatoes, diced tomatoes with some chilies in it, some jalapenos.
Jalapenos. You got to add your onion.
I'm sorry. But you strain the black beans, you put the tomatoes in it, you got like a nice little salsa dish. And it's really convenient and easy. It takes you like 5 minutes or less. But on the days where you're busy, there you go. I mean, I'm always mindful with suggesting nuts like almonds and macadamia nuts or Brazil nuts because they are so dense in calories.
And they're not very satisfying.
But that's a better option than potato chips as long as you're mindful.
True.
Right? Now, it doesn't mean you can't eat potato chips, but just understanding that might be a healthier option.
Yeah. So think of this as fill your house with already prepared protein and carb sources that are healthier.
Yeah, it could be also adding in like a protein shake. Like we have Quest protein, right? Something that's really easy for after the gym or you're busy. All right, here's my protein for right now.
Yeah.
120 calories, boom.
Quick oats. Oatmeal that takes literally 1 minute in the microwave. And then you put protein powder in it and you put Greek yogurt in it and you mix it all up and you put fruit on top. fantastic breakfast that takes literally 3 minutes in total. So to say, I don't have time to prepare a meal, if you work at home especially, yes, you do. You just don't have staples in mind that make it easy for you. So if you can get some staples in your mind, you have the easy access to things in your house. You've already prepared a couple of things. It's so easy, so easy to get yourself the fuel that you need.
Now, the key here is understanding that these are the foods that we want to eat, right? These are the foods that we want to create as our baseline. The challenge now becomes how we're going to prepare them. I've alluded to it a little bit, but we want to make sure that we have seasonings we enjoy. Lindsay and I love adobo seasoning. We also love the McCormick packets of seasoning, especially when we're baking chicken or we're slow cooking chicken. Just open up a packet, sprinkle that on. It's very easy and convenient to get a good flavor. Nothing wrong with using salsa or soy sauce or buffalo sauce or toppings that you enjoy. Now, be mindful of dressings that have a lot of calories. Be mindful of overdoing this, right? You can easily push ranch dressing to the extreme.
Or barbecue sauce.
Right? So we want to be mindful of our consumption of things that have extra calories. But I think the biggest problem for people is that they don't enjoy what they meal prep.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this thing sucks. And if it sucks, I'm not going to eat it, right? So learning how to do it in a way that you enjoy is going to be key. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. One of the things that we learned about rice and rice cookers is that if you put a little butter in it, it tastes much better.
Or if you cook the rice with chicken broth instead of water, way better.
Yep.
It's super easy if you know a few little tips and tricks of the trade.
When you crock pot your chicken, you don't have to add any water.
Nope.
You just have to cut open the seasoning, sprinkle it in there, takes care of itself.
And if you're unfamiliar with what we're talking about regarding McCormick seasoning packets, there are seasoning packets in every grocery store. There's usually a whole aisle of them. We're not talking about the big bottles of seasoning. These are packets.
Yeah, they're like marinades.
They're supposed to be marinades, but we use them as seasoning packets. And there are things like tomato basil. There are things like chili lime. There are things like pulled barbecue pork. If you just use the packet itself, that actually will make any protein that you might want to cook delicious. And it takes no time, no bandwidth, no effort other than opening a packet. And so if you learn how to do that, and then again, you use tools that are set it and forget it tools like an air fryer or a rice cooker or a crock pot, then you can cook in big batches and make it very tasty, delicious, and convenient. One of our clients used to call this, well, she didn't call it this, actually. We call it this. But this is net time. You want to cook in net time, which means no extra time. You're already doing something else, and you're just cooking in a set it and forget it type of way, which is what a crock pot will do, a rice cooker will do. Little different than trying to cook everything over a skillet, right? Or trying to follow a recipe to then cook it in a skillet. Last thing. I think that growing up, we learn casserole from our parents. Casserole can be convenient because you put everything into one container and you cook it in the oven. But if you don't already have really simple, healthy casseroles top of mind, you're going to end up back in the same position you were in before, where you have to follow a tedious recipe with a bunch of ingredients. You have to watch it cook or pay attention to it. And those are things we're trying to avoid with the 4 Ps that we gave you, which are prepare your list, prepare proteins, at least 1 to 2 sources, prepare carbohydrates, at least 1 to 2 sources, and then purchase prepared protein and carbs so that your life is easy. And when you wake up, you can have an easy breakfast of, like we said, protein oatmeal. You get to lunch, you're a little hungry, not totally famished. You go to the fridge. I created a sun-dried tomato basil pulled chicken, and I have rice that's already kind of buttered and tasty. Put it together. If you want to add it over a bed of lettuce, fine. But you've got a delicious meal for lunch that took you less than 5 minutes to put together because you spent 1 hour while you were doing other stuff on Sunday to prepare your food.
So if this is helpful for you, we have a special gift for you. We've designed a made in minutes recipe guide that's going to help you meal prep and execute everything that we've talked about today for you to really start fueling your body and get the results you want. All you have to do is click the link below and you'll be able to get it instantly sent to your email, and then you can start executing for yourself, your body, your goals, and your family. So we hope this is helpful. Hope this spurred on some ideas of how you can start fueling your body well by priming your environment with the right foods. Start preparing meals that make it easy for you to implement and execute on those points throughout the week where, hey, it's middle of the day, or I need to make sure that I have a healthy lunch. What can I turn to? How can I make sure that my meals are easier for me and helping me live a healthy life? But Lindsay, is there anything else that you would love to add?
I don't think so. I think the only other thing to add, well, maybe perhaps one more thing to add, would be if you want to implement a meal prep routine into your day, start becoming more proactive. Instead of thinking, when am I going to meal prep? Think, when am I doing my grocery shopping? Make sure that routine's in place. And then plan to spend 1 hour while doing other things preparing your food following the 4 Ps that we just gave you. And that will be an easy weekly or even bi-weekly habit that helps you eat healthier more consistently.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, make sure you click the link below and get your made in minutes recipe guide so you can start implementing some of the things we talked about today and start fueling your body well. But thank you for being here. We hope this is helpful. And now go out and conquer your day.
Cheers.
Cheers.